My name's Eddie Jump. I am the Empowered IIoT Digital Analytics Leader at Milacron, and I'll explain a little bit about what that means as we go through the presentation. But basically, I've spent the last couple years using my expertise that I've gained at Milacron to really start to learn and help put together a product that reaches out and touches our customers in different ways. So a little bit about myself. I started at Milacron about 8 years ago. I started in the electrical engineering group. I spent a lot of time there. I spent some time in field service, working with the technical support teams, working with the quality groups, working with our retrofit and rebuild teams, and then to now the last couple years as the product leader for Empowered. So I've got a lot of diversity in my background within Milacron. So I've got a unique understanding of the machines. I've had the experience of getting to talk to a lot of different customers. But I'll go ahead and jump into it. So Empowered is Milacron's IoT or 4.0 suite, and we'll explain a little bit about what that means. And especially over the next 4 weeks, today is going to be more of a high-level presentation that really goes through what Empowered is, what we're about, some of the value that we've delivered to customers, and then we're going to use this as kind of the basics and the understanding to building blocks for the next 3 sessions after this. So the first question I want to propose to the audience here is what does the Industrial Internet of Things, or IoT, or Industry 4.0 mean to you or your business? I'm going to take about 30 to 40 seconds to pause, see if we get any replies back to that. But we really wanted to kind of start off with what are those thoughts, and what really is pushing you into this presentation today, sitting here and listening with us, and what are some of the things your business is doing around these topics?
We have real information at any place on the work and predictive defects, maintenance, responding to orders and demand.
Great. Yeah, absolutely. And I think those are 2 very key points, and certain things that people want to focus on. To Milacron, we have a very unique look at this, and I think ours is probably slightly different from each customer, which is part of what we want to get out from this exercise. Right? Is that every person, every customer, every OEM has a different idea about what this means, and it usually is because of our experiences and the challenges that we face. We being all of us have faced within our businesses, and trying to combat that with data. So that's really what we're trying to do, and what we're trying to do with Empowered is how do we take data, how do we learn together, and how do we leverage that to become better. So one of the other things that you're going to hear pretty frequently throughout this presentation is OEE. So I think most of you are probably familiar with OEE, but I'm going to give a brief definition. OEE is overall equipment effectiveness. This is your availability, your performance, and your quality metrics of each individual asset multiplied together to give you a score that tells you how productive that particular asset is. Many times the things that we're trying to focus on will relay back to OEE, and it will relay back to this concept of what is dragging these components down and where do we really need to focus our activities. All right, so before we jump into Empowered, we want to go into a relational aspect to kind of help our customers understand how Milacron sees IoT. So we asked the question of you, and I appreciate the answers and the responses back to that. And we might even take a break and read some more of those as we go through here. I'm sure there are more, and Janice probably wants to jump in. But what we want to do, again, like I said, we want to be relational. We want you to understand what our vision is for this and how we're trying to meet and partner with our customers to build a better experience. So a lot of times when we talk about this industry, we always utilize cars, and it's very relational to a piece of equipment that we use in our daily lives and something that we're using to make a product in our business. So with the car, you have functions like a GPS, you have a check engine light that if you hook a computer to it, it'll tell you what's going on, all the way to today, where you may have an OnStar or some other kind of feature that this information automatically gets relayed back to a provider who can tell you certain maintenance things about your car, or provide you the right direction to fix your car and make sure it's operating effectively. You've got sensors on these cars now that tell you blind spots, that are cameras that help you see things in different angles where you might not have been able to before. I mean, myself, I used to hate backing up with a camera, and now it's weird when I get in a car without one. And there are several features like this, all the way to what's coming out in the future with all these different sensor technologies, especially when you see a Tesla or some of these others that have auto driving features that can identify challenges and identify things in the road to help you navigate and steer away from trouble, or to point you on a path that really makes your driving experience better, all the way down from the features in the car to things that integrate from cell phones like a GPS. They're taking all of this knowledge in and making plans for you to make that driving experience better on the operational side, and then easier also on the ownership and maintenance side. So that's really where we're trying to go with this concept. We're trying to develop a partnership with our customers and our users to become empowered champions. So champions is something you'll hear me refer to pretty frequently through this presentation, so that we can empower them to make good decisions utilizing data from the machines, and from other learnings we've had through our extensive partnership and network. All right, so how do we do that? How do we get there? We really focused heavily here at the beginning and here on this first opening week as to how do we develop a partnership, how do we meet our customers, and how do we understand what their goals and needs are and really get to that next stage. So if you're reading through the chat window, I'm sure there are multiple things in there where more people had ideas of IIoT or things that are affecting their OEE. And what we need to do is be flexible enough to be able to have a solution that can meet a customer for at any one of their needs or in any area. So it's really critical that a solution, wherever it is able to identify that, help you pick the right things to measure and manage to, make sure that you have the right equipment in place to be able to collect that and analyze it in an effective fashion. And then from there, being able to implement it and utilize it in a way that really makes sense within the business. So we're going to focus heavily here in these next couple slides on these key concepts and what we do as a partner to our customers. So this is not something that we created as another avenue for Milacron. This is something we really created to be a better partner and to start to leverage our learnings and our global fleet to better our entire customer base. We really see this as a great partnership opportunity to get out there and touch our customers in ways we haven't been able to in the past through data and through connected devices. All right, so the first step in our road to a successful IIoT solution is defining your keys to success. So many people, again, these keys, they may have defined those, they may have gotten to some similar point here, but it's really critical to understand those for your business. So asking yourself, am I struggling with a workforce that's aging and I'm losing all of my technical expertise by the day? I think even at Milacron, we see that and we felt that over the last 5 years. And I think we feel that within our customer base. But then looking forward, how are we going to maintain our equipment effectively when we have machines varying from 20 plus years age all the way to a new one with a new control on it? Do I need predictive and prescriptive analytics that will help me understand these machines before they break down? Am I in an industry that's very regulated around recipes, and I need to understand my work cell? I need to understand all these components that are making good parts. So again, this, if you hear me refer to something as a line, if you hear me refer to something as a press, keep in mind that these solutions, we go across both the extrusion and injection markets. So this product is not something that we focused on for one particular market segment. It's something that stretches across both. So these problems are not unique to one or the other. So as I say this again, if you hear me refer to something that might not necessarily be extrusion or injection, it's really both, and we're working on a solution that can meet each of our customers' needs. So again, it's just very, very critical to define those keys and make sure that they are the ones that are going to drive the most meaningful ROI through your business, as well as provide the most benefit, whether that be just to the technicians on the floor and helping them do their job more effectively. It's very, very critical that we work together in the early stages to define what that looks like. From there, choosing the right person to move this through the business is probably the second most critical item. So, choosing a champion, an empowered champion, again, as I referred to that earlier, you'll hear me say that many times. The reason we've kind of coined this phrase is because of how critical it is to the business. Driving a culture that utilizes data to understand assets is completely different than how the industry has been seen in the last 30 years. So where you have guys that can stick a stethoscope on a pump or on a gearbox and say, "Yep, this is going to fail," that's a thing of the past. It's slowly aging out, and as we have to bring in that next generation and give them the tools to operate these machines, just or if not more efficiently, it's very critical to have someone that understands not only the machinery side, but how you can paint a picture with data to drive this through your business and to make sure that you're assessing the right things and putting the right things in place in different avenues. So how can this data affect engineering? How can this data affect procurement? How can it really be integrated into these different avenues? From there, it's really also key to work with somebody, whether that's a Milacron or not. But it's really important to work with somebody that understands your equipment. And when we say connect it, they understand that hooking up a machine and pulling a cushion off of a machine, what that means, or pulling a torque value from an extrusion line or a puller speed. It's very critical to work with a partner that can help you effectively collect that information. So it's great when somebody says, "I've got all these drivers, I've got ways to communicate to all these different types of machine," and you work through that plan. But working with somebody that says on the back end, "Yeah, your max injection pressure is reaching X when it should be Z in this scenario." It's very important to work with somebody that understands that and can help you develop a plan to getting the right assets connected, the right data coming from those, and the right information at your fingertips to make decisions. So making sure your keys are correct, making sure you've got the right person that can put data in the right hands and paint the right picture, and then making sure you're connecting your equipment, getting the right information in the right package to those people. It's three very, very critical steps, and why we have those as the first three to a successful solution. From there, the next three here are all about how do we now analyze and make sure that the solution is correct and it's right for our business. So being able to, when you're defining those keys, establish a group of KPIs that will help you measure, am I doing the right things? KPIs meaning it could be something as simple as an ROI calculation, but it generally relates to, are my downtime hours decreasing? Am I seeing a downtick in unplanned downtime, I guess, versus downtime itself? Is my energy usage dropping? Am I seeing an overall decreased cost to operate my equipment? It's usually a few of the ones we see, but it's really important to have those. And it's really important to also take this data and make it work for you. It's very hard to have somebody, even with the champion, going out there and writing things on a clipboard. They need to have the right tools in place to automate a process and analyze these KPIs to be sure it's working for you. So something you will hear us refer to continuously, again, with the solution over the next 4 weeks, is the term API, so application programming interface. And I won't get too deep into that today, but the very important part of the API is that this data needs to be accessible and at your fingertips, not only through our system, but to put into your additional systems. So your ERPs, your other MESs that you may have established, they have to play well. In a lot of instances, if a customer has nothing today and they haven't connected a machine, there's a lot of things we can do. But in many areas where we don't touch your material handling, or we don't touch your material ordering, you have systems in place to do that. So it's very critical that the system tie to those, but it also can help spit out that data and get it into a place where you can track and analyze and make sure your decisions are making meaningful impact to the business. So the system has to be critical or flexible, and it has to be able to provide you information to study that. From there, it's very, very critical to go back and assess to make sure that your solution is continually meeting your needs. Putting a solution in place that has been the same for 5 years and looks to be the same for the next five is a sure path to failure. So you need to be sure that your solution is going to evolve with you. Today, you may care about unplanned downtime, and that might get you to a 90% OEE, but now you need to make that leap to the next 5%, and you've exhausted all your avenues just with that data asset alone. So it's important to continually assess, did we get out of this what we need to do? And now, do we need to look at this data in a different way or move to a new application set that may help us analyze different factors that we didn't look at before? So that last 5% may be very hard to obtain, but maybe you could get it by looking at a screw that's starting to fail prematurely, and you want to know when you need to have one replaced on a machine or other components. We've got some very good use cases that show, as we go through this, how this data has impacted our customers and how they've shifted their mindset from, okay, I need to understand OEE, to now to, we understand it, we've improved, and I want to start looking at things that maybe prescribe other avenues that I can't see myself because I'm not the provider and I can't leverage that fleet. And then from there, it's important to work with somebody that can help you learn from more than just your product. So one of Milacron's major goals is to learn as much as we can from everywhere. So it's very critical to our system, and I think our number one bullet point to every customer is how safe and secure our system is. And we'll talk about this at the end. It usually kind of brings a lot of questions, so we leave it for the end. But the security is of the utmost aspect. So when you hear me talk about this, just know that if we're leveraging a global fleet, everything is anonymized. Everything we study, we keep in our customers' instances. We do not share data. Nothing is shared between customer bases. But what is shared is the learnings of problems we see and recommendations we may be able to make because of things we've learned halfway across the world. So it's Milacron's belief that if we can understand the fleet from a global aspect and understand some problems our customers are facing, that we can build a path to a more predictive and prescriptive future. So if a customer, for example, has a power issue in one part of the world, maybe there's something we can put together by learning from all these machines that say, if you push this button, we'll recommend recipe settings that'll tell you how to most cost effectively, or in a energy sense, use the least amount of kWh, kilowatt hours, to make the same product. So we're heavily focused on how do we take this data, learn from it, build a better machine, become a better partner for our customers. All right, so jumping into the value drivers. So on the value driver side, this is typically where we meet most of our customers. So it's what we've learned over our 2.5 years now of really the empowered name, having it out there and pushing solutions. This is where we typically meet most of our customers. This is not to say this encompasses everything, but this is generally where we've seen it, and what we're going to do over the next part of this session and 3 weeks after this is kind of talk through how we've helped in these different areas. So asset utilization being how we've started to help customers understand OEE, understand productivity, to predictive things that we're delivering to our customers today, things that we're expanding upon to move these forward. So you may have seen a press release here at the beginning of the week that referred to some things that we're doing on the predictive side. I encourage you to watch that. We'll cover that in greater detail in session 4 in particular. We've got energy and resource monitoring that, again, we're going to cover pretty heavily over weeks 3 and 4, that show you how we study that, what we're analyzing, and then how we're making recommendations to our customers based upon real dollar figures and real energy readings coming from these machines. So allowing you to make intelligent decisions. We also do things with certain customers around work cell collaboration. So when I get a little later in this presentation, I'll talk a little bit about that in more depth. And then a couple other things that we've started to touch on with customers is how do we start to automate the quality process, helping you understand from not only the machine, but the work cell components, what a good product is that comes out the other side, getting real-time metrics for that. And then the last bullet point here for service and aftermarket programs is how do we start to work with our components, or work with our customers and our partners, and really use and leverage what we're learning on the predictive side, so that you don't necessarily have to keep manpower or other resources around when these issues occur. A lot of our business, even to this day, is a break fix business, and we're kind of stuck in that mindset. So we're trying to leverage things and develop programs with our customers, so that you don't have to maintain all these resources in the event of an emergency. We want to let you know they're coming before an issue occurs. So with that, Janice, I'm going to pause here for a couple seconds, see if anything has come up in the chat window so far with our discussion before we jump into the next session here.
Sure. If anyone has questions, feel free to type it in, or you can activate your mic. That'd be fine too. I do just want to make an announcement that the Spanish and English versions of this presentation have been emailed out as well.
And we do, for anybody that is not comfortable, if you're more comfortable speaking Spanish and having that translated as well, we do have a couple team members on the phone that can translate questions. If you want to type those or speak in Spanish, feel free, and we'll get those translated for the group.
Could you please elaborate on quality in the cloud?
Yes. So quality in the cloud is, again, it's all about more than just the machine itself. So we're trying to develop ways to utilize and learn from customer input. So we have full quality systems, which we won't get too deep into the applications here. We're going to talk about them at a high level, but we have full quality systems that allow our customers to give us feedback as to what makes good parts and what makes bad parts. And then we have tools that allow you to study machine data along with any other auxiliary equipment piece that we have integrated into the system. And utilizing both of those pieces of information, we can develop optimization reports that recommend settings to help control quality, but then also track that real time. So as things start to change or move, alert you to movements and quality, and really try to help catch things before they become an issue. And I won't, again, I'm not going to jump too far into the details of that application. We are going to cover that application in depth in our week 2. So I encourage you, if that answer wasn't deep enough, please join us next week, and I'll talk about some of the additional pieces of that application.
Thank you for the question. Thanks, Eddie. You can keep going.
Okay. So now with that, I'm going to jump into our empowered applications. So again, we're going to stay at a semi-high level here. So I'm going to talk about some of the benefits of each application, but I will talk about these at a high level, and then I will refer to each of the weeks that we're going to discuss these in detail and some of the things that are going to go into that. So the first set of applications here, and I'll even start a level higher here. With our applications, you'll hear me use that often. We have this kind of pyramid structure. So you'll hear us refer to them as applications, tiers, packages, and it's really because they're all building blocks that help you get to the top of the pyramid, which we're going to get to here in a couple slides. So these applications, they build off each other. They're foundational. They help in different areas. areas, but not everybody needs these as well. So we are very aware that some people have these different portions of the pyramid and try to meet them at their needs. So keep that in mind as we go through and we talk about these applications. All right, so the first application here, the Connect portal. The Connect portal is all about helping the customer understand their productivity. So this isn't just your processing information. This is your productivity, your OEE, and real-time tracking of your assets. So when you're wanting to understand, is my machine up or down? Is there some sort of issue that may be occurring that I can help with from afar or at a glance looking through this data? This is a great application, mobile apps, other dashboarding capabilities to be able to take that and visualize it at any point in time. So as I mentioned, the APIs, they also play into a factor here. So if you want to take this information, provide your productivity to your ERP, your MES, any other type of dashboarding systems that you may have, this system is a great way to grab that asset data, have it translated, and push it into any other monitoring equipment. From there, technical support. So this is one of the main value drivers for Milacron and what we're going to cover very heavily. And I believe this actually might be next week. I might have mentioned next week is the applications. I'll have Janice and Lacey correct me here at the end for the weeks for each of the additional presentations. But regardless, technical support, I believe we're going to cover next week. And this application is what Milacron sees as one of the foundational pieces for how we touch our customers. So we're working on ways to make sure that every asset we ship out of the factory gets connected, because we have learned a lot of good ways to help our customers, and we're going to even go into 4 very unique use cases in our presentation next week that talk in depth how we've helped customers and how we're continuing to help customers by connecting to the machines, leveraging our tools just like we would if we were standing there connected on site, connecting you to 450 plus years of experience sitting in our technical support center, continually expanding this to reach other areas. So as we have machines that have shipped from Europe and India, making sure that we can tie them in as well, so that we're getting all of the expertise on the machine, looking at the right control, assessing the right solutions. And I've even got some stats up here that say 1 in 5 issues can be resolved remotely. And that's completely resolved. That's a machine down to a machine running again. And what we've actually experienced is that's getting closer to 2 in 5. It's getting closer to 2 in 5 because of our ability to be creative about how we're utilizing this tool, and how we look at things differently from a data perspective. So it was very hard. I mentioned guys that want to stick a stethoscope on things don't necessarily get how data can paint the same picture right out of the gate. So as we've started to train more and we've started to use this system, we've seen that number creeping up. And some of the things that we're actually doing in the background is working with new controls development to get that issue to 4 and 5 to 5 and 5. So we're really taking great strides so that we can improve that and get that number up and help our customers get back up and running faster and save valuable downtime. Issues we can't solve, we typically do see a big reduction in those hours, which we're going to talk about a unique use case there as well, which allows you to get the information faster. It allows you to get the right parts the first time and not guessing or checking because it could be this or it could be that. We're generally getting much more qualified information to improve the first time fix rate. And in a world of certain things and certain climates that we have going on right now, it's very critical for us to be able to reach our customers safely and effectively. And we see this as a very good tool for the future, to being able to protect our technicians and our customers and making sure that we're doing everything we can to give you the same level of service you're used to experiencing with our technical support on site. The next level here we refer to as our essential package. So this next base tier, this is geared towards our customers that want to understand more of the production side of their equipment and some of the deeper processing pieces. So we found that most of our customer base is experienced with downtime tracking in some form or fashion. So being able to take machine-based generated downtimes and then code those. So our application is very similar to what you're used to experiencing. We have a way to look at the machine states, flag you when they drop out of these certain states, and then work with you to build in those unique downtime codes and instances. Some of the unique things that we do with this, however, are actually basing it off of machine data versus signals, utilizing the downtime coding from the Milacron side, which we're going to cover in depth as well next week to improve our customer fleet and recommend proactive things to our customers based upon what we're seeing. And then from there, we actually turn this back over to our customers to make this application simpler and easier to use with automated downtime generation due to these downtime codes and things that are coming out of the machines. On the other side, the production monitoring application is exactly what it sounds like. It is that next level tool that helps you pick out all of those pieces from the machine and push those to additional systems or even analyze them right in our tool to help understand what were my key parameters and what were they doing, even all the way to setting alerts if they start to vary. So if you want to understand on the injection side, your cushion, your transfers, your any other type of pressures, temperatures, speeds, it's all available to analyze, to export to additional systems, as well as generate reports and automated alerts based around those information and key things that you set. On the extrusion side, very similar. Anything coming off of the line, any additional auxiliary piece up or downstream that we're pulling into the system, we've got ways of taking that data, collecting it, and providing those same types of tools and making it accessible for dashboarding that either we can build and make customizable and flexible, or show you how to tie into it so that you can put that into a system of your choosing. The last piece here that we're gonna focus on is the premier set of applications. So with this, we've got some things that we have currently in production today, and we have some things that we're working on. And I encourage you, this is the very exciting piece of how we leverage all this data coming out of the machine. Is I encourage you heavily to join us in week 4 as we go through a lot of this and what I'm going to discuss on the next slide with a concept that you'll hear fairly frequently as well moving forward. And if you're reading our documentation, but how do we leverage that data that we've collected in the advantage and essential tiers? And how do we start to build systems that help our customers assist with OEE improvement? So again, it's probably very simple for you to take those tools, analyze them in-house, and get to a 90% OEE. But when you want to get to world class at 95%, how are you going to get there? It's all about using and partnering with each other to really put tools in place that help us get there together. So with that, we've got two strong suits and 2 things we focus on pretty heavily. So on the preventative side, being able to tell you based upon your machine, your mold, and other auxiliary components that we can read in through the data streams when certain things are becoming due. So digitizing maintenance manuals, helping with stocking programs, helping with maintenance where you need it, and really focusing on some of those areas that are hard to keep up with, they're expensive to keep up with, and they may not provide the most bang for your buck, but they're essential to keeping your operation moving. And then on the other side, how do we study this data to predict things like heater band and pump failures? And how do we move that into bigger components on the machines, which again it's very, very exciting stuff, even relating back to cost, showing you how much it costs you to run with a failed component, which I think most will be surprised when you hear a heater band has went out on my machine. Well, that's great. My machine is still running, but did you know that it might cost you $40 to $50 a day to run the machine with that same component failed than just replacing it. Those are the things that we're focusing on, and again, that we're going to cover very heavily in the fourth week. And I encourage you, if you're interested in that piece, to please join us and dig deep into that with us. All right, so here I'm going to pause and kind of ask another question to the audience, because this is kind of a funny word, and we wanted to take a different spin and a different approach again, and kind of get some audience involvement and say, if I said the word Plastonomics, what would that mean to you? What would that mean to your operation? And what are the things you think of when you hear that? It's all about, from Milacron, we wanted to find a way to take this data, and as I alluded to with some of the predictive sides, help understand the economics of running the equipment. It's not just about, is my component failing, and do I need to change it? It's about, hey, I have a different recipe than customer X. I'm not going to change this screw just because you said it's failing. I need you to tell me, based upon my quality, based upon my cost, based upon my energy, when it is time to order that component and get it in stock, and when it's time to replace that component. So a lot of the things that we're going to focus on have that same concept in mind. And one of the terms that you'll hear me refer to pretty frequently throughout all of these presentations, you might hear me say AI. And when I say AI, everybody is used to that term meaning artificial intelligence, meaning that we're putting things in place to help you make a decision, or make a decision for you, rather, that we don't want to make. But to be pretty frank about it, we know that is not what our customers' end state is. So we've kind of coined and changed the meaning of that term to augmented intelligence. So being able to give our users knowledge to make the right decision. So that's really what we're all about, and that's what Plastonomics is about. Plastonomics is about providing the users, whether that be internal or external. So when I talk about users, I'm meaning my customers who want data to better run their machines, who want to know how to better maintenance them. But then also on the Milacron side, we want to know, and my engineering staff wants to know, what do I need to do on this next generation of product, or what quality defects are we having with this current generation that we can fix by understanding this data. So Plastonomics for us is all about, how do we relate this back to things that are really data-driven decisions, on things that make sense for everyone. How do we help improve the economics of molding, and really augment that intelligence so that we're providing a good solution? So a few of these bullet points here, I'm not going to read through each of them, but a few of these bullet points here are really some of the things that we're focusing on, and what Industry 4.0 and doing big data mean to Milacron. So what we wanted to also do is kind of talk a couple slides here, high level, about what applications are available. So again, everybody on the phones probably has a mixed bag of equipment, whether that be various OEMs or Milacron machinery, ranging from we've seen things that are still running from 1970 all the way up to today. So we really wanted you to understand what the capabilities are, and where we play with our different applications. So if you have any of our Mosaic-based or Endura-based controls, we have the full suite available. We even go back to the Mosaic 1 in some instances. We have different ways of adding components to these machines. So if you have an additional B&R control or a RoboShot equipment, we're working on ways to advance these technologies as well, so that we can deliver the full package to each of these control types. You can see here we've got a couple notes on different points here. When you start to get outside of the Milacron house, there are certain things that we need the machines to be capable of, so that we can pull data from them. But other OEMs, we do have the capability to interface with those and take that data and analyze that as well. So that is available, and we can talk more about that. With the extreme controllers, you'll see another note here. We have the ability to pull information. We have the ability to do things. We're even working on stuff for the predictive analytics for the extreme controllers, which is not quite ready for prime time, but a lot of capabilities there. And then on the other side, if you have upstream and downstream equipment that utilizes Allen Bradley or Siemens or even certain other PLCs that we have interfaced with at a certain time, we do have capabilities to connect to those as well. Moving forward on the compatibility side, as I mentioned, we do a lot with some of our customers, and I will go through this, and I think it's our week 3 presentation where we talk about some of the interfacing we've done with additional auxiliaries, but we're all around focusing on how do we gather more information through the work cell, so through the robots, through your chillers, your feeders, and really start to paint a full picture and a full scope of what that looks like. So how do we help you improve efficiency? And we mentioned quality, and we had a great question on quality. How do we help you understand quality from the larger work cell standpoint? And then how can we make it safer to operate all of this? So how can we give you a full visualization of that complete work cell, so that things, maybe a set point, you're walking around changing all these set points, maybe one was off. How can we make it safer to run the equipment through that understanding? And then eventually, how do we potentially look at pushing some of this back, which again, we will cover in a later slideshow. All right, so before we get into the architecture and the good question we had on how do you activate empowered, I wanted to refer back to this slide. So every week for over the next 3 weeks now, after this presentation's done, we are going to continually refer back to this, and I'm going to point to these different places where where each of these applications touch. So if that check engine light comes on, what is my technical support team doing to see that this is on, proactively understand what's going on with my equipment, and either recommend something to me, or when I call in, have the information ready at their fingertips because they know why my machine's down. Things like understanding other use cases about the engine, about the brakes, about other sensors on the car itself, and saying, hey, I see how these are running. I see the diagnostics on these. What are some things you might recommend, or where are some things you might see performance slipping? All the way to how can we augment my intelligence to understand other predictors in the road, so analyzing signs, analyzing other things around me in the environment, analyzing other factors that may be occurring throughout the world, and really start to augment that intelligence, and really provide a better user experience and operation for our equipment. So again, I just want to make sure that we keep this relational aspect in mind, and as we introduce this in week 2, we're going to refer to a certain section of the drive, how we're trying to help customers, and we're going to relate that back to these individual pieces. So again, please keep this in mind. It's all about that user experience and how we're trying to make it a more comfortable ride for our customer while providing that look to the most effective destination. All right, so with that, I'm going to jump into the secure and private cloud, what that architecture looks like. So I'll talk a little bit in here about the question. I'll try to address the question that was proposed on how do you activate empowered. And then if we have additional questions, we're going to jump right into the Q&A after this. So you can ask questions on this network setup all the way down to additional questions on some of the things we covered, and maybe even point you to a session or two that you may want to attend based upon some of the questions we get back. All right, so with that, I'm going to start down. I hope everyone can see my mouse cursor here. I'm going to start down here in this bottom corner around machines and devices. So we have a unique partnership. So if I haven't mentioned them before, we have a unique partnership with the company EI3. I encourage you to do research on EI3. They are a trusted partner. We've done our work to vet and make sure that the security aspect is, again, of the utmost importance to Milacron for our machinery. And that is a large reason why we've chosen this partner. So rather than going off and trying to develop our own equipment and hardware to connect and get to the cloud, it's a very easy thing to do in today's day and age, especially if you've got an engineer or two, a younger engineer or two that understands data, understands how to collect it, understands how to pass it into a repository. It's a very easy thing to do today. What's not easy is putting the relational aspect of the machine and all the resources behind understanding that equipment, and then also keeping it safe. So EI3, it fills a very big need that we have with keeping the equipment safe, keeping it firewalled, keeping it segregated, but then also keeping your network safe. So when you see this DECRA 27001 stamp, this is for the entire system. So these red boxes are very key to that architecture. These red boxes are a device that sits on the machine and allows us to not only segment and firewall the machine to keep it safe and secure, so nothing is directly connected to our controls. It allows you to, or it allows us to also speak to each of those individual devices. So there are a lot of things that this device does as far as communication. It speaks 20 plus different communication protocols. OPC UA is a big one in today's day and age. So things like that to all of these different devices, and allows us to maintain that work cell approach utilizing a single device architecture. So this can be done through Ethernet cabling. This can be done through serial communications. And really the question of how do you activate empowered? It's usually as simple as getting this red box installed on a machine, figuring out how we talk to the equipment, and then working out a solution to get backup out through the network and to the cloud platform. So from there, each of these red boxes will all go back to a green box. This is done for several reasons. Again, security being the top reason. This also further firewalls and segments our machinery from your network. This clear traffic network can be put on a VLAN, so it does not have to be physically separated, but it can be. And we've seen about a 50-50 split of customers that physically separate it versus ones that establish a VLAN. But they all talk back through a singular green box, which is what the IT team would see on the network. So the singular green box requires either a dynamic or static IP address and access to our data centers. So there are several things that this box does, but it only speaks until we establish a secure VPN connection back in. It speaks outgoing on port 443. So very simplistic. You only need to open a single port, and we can even give you data centers with ranges of IP blocks that it talks to, and you can monitor that traffic. And this is the device, the only device that really needs to sit on the network to make it less confusing for our customers. So this can be scary, but I've got plenty of documentation that talks about why we've chosen this solution and what makes it so secure for sitting on the company network. From there, all of the applications we discussed in the last few slides and what we'll discuss in the next few weeks, we process all of these in our cloud engine, which is also a privately owned infrastructure. This is not AWS. This is not Microsoft. This is not a Google Cloud. This is a Milacron-owned cloud infrastructure that is protected and also maintains this stamp, this DECRA 27001 stamp. So it's very secure. You can't even physically get to it. There's only a couple people with key cards that even have access to physically touch the machinery. So there are a lot of ways we make it safe and secure, but this is a big one for us. And then all the way down to we utilize and leverage the cloud platform with a secure VPN connection, which is the route that most of our customers have headed regardless. If you are letting somebody onto your network, you're usually asking them to go through a VPN client. Well, this service has that VPN client already established, which is completely auditable, traceable, and you can even control the key as to who connects and how long they connect. So when Milacron connects, it's through your instance, it's controlled by you, and you can see everything that's done on the back end with a report after the session is completed. So a lot of different reasons we've chosen our partnership, but again, safety, security, edge computing, we needed a solution that was safe, flexible, and reliable for our customers. So we really put a lot of thought into this, and we've really have chosen the best provider and the best security out there for our customers and the solution. All right, so with that, I know we have about 5 minutes left, and I don't have anything after this, so I can stay for questions. I'm going to pause now. I think we had a couple questions we were going to ask, but Janice, I kind of want to change this up and open it up for questions and any comments so we can hear from the audience.
Great. You do have a couple questions in the chat. The first is from Jamie. Is it possible to perform the action plan to track any downtime in real time, or assign an owner for the open action in order to track the status?
So there are several ways I'll answer this. So yes, you can track the downtimes in real time. So if you're utilizing the platform, it can be slightly delayed just depending on the time it collects, but it's no more than a minute. So as soon as something occurs, you get this downtime notification, and you can send notifications to a group of people based upon that specific downtime code or error. The system itself, we do have ways of putting things in here and acknowledging alerts when they're completed by these certain people. But we also have customers that have integrated this system, which we'll talk pretty heavily about in some of our use cases, but they've integrated this system into their work order tracking systems. So it's very flexible in that when this alert occurs or when a certain action item occurs, to look at this data, establish a work order in your system that you already have or are already used to. So it's very flexible for doing it either straight out of the system or tying it into something that you may already have that you're used to having and establishing work orders out of.
You have a question from Maxi Industries. Does the virtual fence box come with the machine package?
So any machine that has shipped since July of 2018 likely has that box included with it. If not, we have made it a relatively simple add to the machines. And we've offered a package since July 2018 as well, that you get to experience all the benefits we talked about today, unless we have to add special sensors for some of the predictive pieces. You can experience all the benefits free of charge on your machine if you've bought it since July of 2018. So I encourage you, if you guys fall in that category, please reach out to your sales representative. I think my contact information was included as well, and reach out to us and we'll talk you through what that looks like. Some of the equipment, even dating back to 2014, does have these red boxes as well. So we've got about 1,250 additional red boxes sitting in the field today that have not been connected. So there is a high chance that if you've bought a machine since 2014, that you likely may have one or two red boxes sitting in your facility. So if you want to know specifically from a machine serial order, just send us that information and we can tell you very quickly if it was included, and if not, what it'll take to add it. And that's usually pretty simple.
Another question, where have sensors been added to the injection molding machine? Where might they be added in the future?
Great question. So for our predictive technologies, again, I'll cover this in detail in our slideshow in week 4, and you will be able to see some examples of these sensors. The only thing that we have actually added a sensor for today is our predictive pump technology. So we have a sensor that we've co-developed with EI3 that allows us to do real-time sensor analysis of the machine and tell you of state changes. Today, that is the only sensor that needs added. All of the additional analytics that we run on the press usually come from data and signals that we pull from the machine standard. And to augment that, I don't want to get too deep into some of the future stuff because we do have a lot of things coming in week 4 where I will talk about some of these future things and some of the things that we're adding and going to start studying. So please, I encourage you, if you want to get very deep into that question, attend session 4, and we will get into the nitty gritty of what we do and what we're headed towards.
Another question, will it be the same also for tuning machines?
Yes. So on the tuning side, so when I mentioned Plastonomics, right, that's one of the things, in the technical support side, that's one of the things that we're actually going to cover next week on the technical support side. How are we leveraging the data to be a better provider? So as we start to see performance slips, what are the things that we need to put in place to accurately tell if the performance is slipping? And then from there, what are the things that we recommend real time to a customer when that performance starts to degrade? So how can we prescribe potentially changing a valve or changing oil or some kind of varnish mitigation, depending on the age of your equipment pre-servo? We're looking at these things so that we can take this data real time, study performance metrics throughout the whole machine, not just the predictive pieces we'll talk about, but throughout the whole machine, and then make intelligent recommendations back to the user.
If I restate that question, will it also be the same for turning machines? Would your answer be any different?
I'm not sure if I completely understand turning machine. If we're talking about the vertical machines, or any other type of product line, so the more pieces of a product line that we have connected of a certain product line, the easier it is to do these analytics. So I'll answer that in a kind of a broad sense of that. As we add more machines of a certain type, and as we experience with our customer base certain failures and certain things, we are going to adapt those to the product lines that we connect. So yes, we will move those to additional lines that we connect today.
Thank you. That question was for vertical.
Okay.
Well, thank you everyone for joining today. Eddie, any last words?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to everyone for joining. I appreciate everyone being willing to ask questions and getting out with us and spending an hour of your day with us. I know a lot of people are probably sitting in the same boat. Maybe some are sitting at home, maybe some are finally back to work, but I do appreciate you guys taking the time out to learn about Empowered, and I encourage you over the next 3 weeks. We've got some shorter sessions, so we've tried to be even more cognizant of everyone's time. So weeks 2, 3, and 4, we tried to get those down to a 30-minute presentation where we dig into these specific concepts and then leave a lot of time for Q&A. So please, I encourage you to come back next Thursday at 2, listen to us talk through the technical support, how we've helped customers, how we're going to help customers. So that great question about some of the additional things we're going to do around performance metrics. That's a great topic for next week. And then if you have any other questions or concerns or things that pop up in the meantime, please reach out to your sales contacts. If you have my information, please feel free to reach out to me anytime as well. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty easy to find on there as well. And if you have any questions, I'm always willing to chat, even if you're considering a separate solution. I love talking through this, and we love partnering with our customers. Our customers are very important to us, so we want to make sure that you're getting what you need, and we're there for you.